We haven't got any customers coming in. We haven't got any leads. You wake up in a panic. You start having those days where you're like, I'm going to do a sales day today. And you start doing the rhythmic action. You consistently reach out to people. You consistently add people to your list, prospects to your list. You start to get some success. That success makes you busy. Then you start to take your foot off the gas and we plunge down into the below break even line. And you start going, oh God, we haven't got any revenue coming in this month. This is terrifying, okay? And we start the cycle all over again. Okay, guys, so in today's video, we're gonna be going through a process of how you never run out of leads again, building a pipeline of endless prospects that you can go after. I see so many founders who are resisting founder-led sales. It is the lifeblood of any early stage company. It is what takes you from having no revenue to more customers than you know what to do with. It is the thing that is going to do that quickest, and it is the thing that's going to do that in a way that costs you the least amount of money. This talk today is going to take you from sales novice and turn you into a sales machine. How do I know that? I have worked for the last 10 years doing cold calling and direct sales. I have seen it all. I have had phones hung up on me. I've had people swear at me. I've had ridiculous rejections on the phone. Trust me, it isn't that bad to deal with. I have closed deals with FTSE 100 companies. These are the 100 biggest companies in the UK. They're hard to sell to. They require lots of people to be bought in, lots of people to be sold to. I've helped close deals that have been worth over £2 million in annual recurring revenue, seen and helped that deal get across the line and learned a lot in the process. And I've been teaching people the exact framework, this rhythmic revenue framework, which we're going to be talking about today, in the last year. And those who have just been a blind follower have implemented, jumped in with both feet. I have seen them close over £92,000 worth of contracts in the first 3 months of working together. People get serious results when they do founder-led sales. The problem is that most of you just don't do founder-led sales. You resist it with every single bone in your body. If I'm going to teach you how to do founder-led sales, if I'm going to turn you into that sales machine, I need to teach you 4 things. We're going to talk about what founder-led sales is. We're going to define some terms. We're going to make sure that you have a solid foundation to build off of and some of the traps that happen in startups around sales. We're going to talk about this rhythmic revenue model. This is the process of prospecting, reaching out, and following up with people who match your ideal customer profile. More on that a little bit later. And that is the engine that is going to drive the growth of your startup. If you just do this, if anything you learn in this group, if you just implement this, I guarantee you your life is different in 12 months. I'm going to tell you how to find endless prospects. If you are struggling to find more customers than you could possibly contact in a lifetime, it is because you're not being specific enough with your ICP. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Essential Sales Toolkit. These are the 4 tools that you need to do sales. If you don't have them, you're not going to be able to do them. So stay tuned for that. So founder-led sales. What is founder-led sales? It's a really simple process. Like, it's not rocket science. It is a way to connect with your ideal customers with intent. So instead of waiting around, feeling lucky, waiting for that referral and feeling like revenue isn't under your control, it is a way that you start to put some control into the process of generating new opportunity for your business. It is a way of networking like a human. I'm not going to be teaching you anything crazy in the way that you network here, but this humanistic way of doing sales. You don't have to feel salesy and icky. It's actually quite fun when you get into it, because you're going to make incredible connections with people. And it is leading with value. It is not doing the things that we all hate, which I think is why so many founders resist doing sales, because we feel like sales is this disgusting process that everyone gets really wound up with, okay? It is not pitch slapping people when you connect with them on LinkedIn. I do not want you doing that, right? It is not being salesy. That kind of, I don't know if any of you have been at a networking event, someone's trying to shove a business card into your hand, desperately trying to get you to buy something. It's awful. It's 2025. We are going to do consultative selling. We're going to lead with that value. And what it is not being is really annoying, where you connect with someone, they're using some kind of automation, they send 50 follow-up messages to you that completely ignores everything that you say, and it drives people nuts. I think that is why so many founders resist doing founder-led sales, because at our core, we feel like sales is a thing that annoys people. We feel like sales is a process that people just don't like very much, okay? And I'm here to say today, that's not the case. When you get sales right, when you create a process that is leading with value, and you're offering clarity, and you're offering it to a group of people who really need your product or service, selling becomes really fun for you. But people love to be sold to. Think of the experience of going to a Rolex shop. That is a hardcore sales experience. You are going to be sold to in that shop. There is going to be someone making you try things on, and they're going to be convincing you to buy watches that you probably don't need, okay? But you want, because it is a beautiful, fun sales process. And if you think about the last time you got really excited to buy something off someone, and it has happened, what was the things that they did in that sales process that made you feel good? Did you feel annoyed and bothered? No, you probably felt listened to, heard, understood, and deeply valued in that process. And that's why you bought for them. So we're going to be talking about that. If we're going to do founder-led sales, we've got to make sure that we understand some key simple sales terms, because when we start tracking this data, when we start having conversations with people around doing those founder-led sales, we need to all speak the same language, okay? And I see people getting confused about these terms all of the time. It is the most important term that we're going to be talking about today is the ideal customer profile. It is just a detailed description of your perfect customer. It includes their needs and characteristics, and most importantly, things that qualify them for your product or service or process, okay? Most of you, we'll get into this slightly later in the talk, are running promiscuous businesses where you have very, very little qualifying characteristics based on your ICP at all. And then you wonder why you can't find people, because really you're searching for anyone in the population of humanity. And that's a really hard thing to do, okay? So your ICP, ideal customer profile, when you hear me talk about that, it is just your knowledge of who is buying your product, why they are buying it, what qualifies them to buy it, what disqualifies them to buy it, okay? We're going to be talking about prospects and prospecting a lot today. So what is a prospect? A prospect is just a potential customer who matches your ideal customer profile. It's why it's so important to have one of those. If you don't have one of those, you are just adding random people to a list. It's going to be a horrible experience contacting that list, because most people are just going to reject your advances. But, you know, a prospect is not a lead because they probably aren't aware of who you are, who your company is, and what you do. We've just found someone somewhere, we've added them to a list, and we're going to reach out to them at some later date, okay? We're looking for leads eventually. We are trying to turn prospects into leads. This is the process of sales. Sales turns prospects into leads. Marketing just lands leads directly in your lap, okay? And we actually want both in our business working together, because you can't just do marketing. Unfortunately, guys, most of you who are resisting sales, like, oh, I'm just going to do marketing, I'm just going to do content. Unless you're selling a really low ticket item, which most of you are not, and I hope you're not, because it's easier to sell products that have pricing power in them. You're going to have to do some selling to some people some of the time. And so we have to learn how to speak to your customers, give them clarity, and get them to make a purchasing decision. A lead is just someone who has shown interest in your product by engaging with you in some way, turning up to an event, signing up to your newsletter, downloading a lead magnet, jumping on a call with you, replying to a message. Any of those things qualify someone as a lead, okay? And then we're going to look and maybe talk a little bit today about account-based prospecting. So an account is just a company or an organization who you are going to target because they need to buy your product. Many of you who are doing more enterprise level sales are looking at account-based prospecting. This is a really nice target. It makes it hard and also easy in the same breath. It's really easy to find accounts. There are lists of them. There are great ways you can do searches on LinkedIn for them. The difficulty is most people don't know how to roll up an account or break into an account and do business development. We're not very often, we're not just targeting one person inside the account unless it's a very small company. What we have to do is identify multiple people that we're trying to make inroads with, and we're trying to roll that account up so that everyone is talking about you and your product in there. It is a multifaceted sale. The good news is you can put 5-10 prospects from one account into your prospects list. So you should be able to build bigger lists if you're doing account-based prospecting. So those are some of the terms. What is the trap in founder-led sales? What is the thing that I see holding people back more often than not? And I think it is fundamentally this, especially in the world of B2B SaaS where we all exist, right? You build a software company because you want something scalable that earns you money through code while you sleep at night. That's the dream, right? Stick up a landing page, run adverts to it, profit. That's what most people think is going to happen. That's not actually how it happens, because most of the time you don't know how to sell your stuff or market your stuff in the beginning. So we have to start with founder-led sales, and most people don't start here because they want to avoid doing founder-led sales as much as they possibly can. And there is 2 failure modes that I see that founders fall foul of time and time again, which is they either hire a marketing agency to try and fix the sales problem, or they hire an inexperienced sales team member to try and work out how to sell their product. Okay, so the first failure mode is founders don't want to do sales, so they hire a marketing agency because they think if we run ads, if we run social content, people will just become customers through that. But the problem is, because you don't know as a founder how to sell your product just yet, you're putting a ton of responsibility on that marketing agency on working out how to sell your product. You haven't delegated the responsibility to them. You've actually abdicated that responsibility. It is a core responsibility of a founder to work out how to sell your product. But so many founders just push that to one side and go, that's someone else's job. And we're surprised when that doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work with most marketing agencies, you might get lucky, but I hear a lot of stories of people wasting a lot of money with marketing agencies repeatedly, is at the start, when you have no money because you have no customers, because you don't know how to sell your product, you can't afford the marketing agencies in the world that know how to solve the problem of understanding how to market and sell your product. Okay, they either run their own businesses and they're really good marketers and they make millions for it, which is more than they're going to make with your recurring revenue retainer subscription, right? Or they work for some of the most prestigious marketing agencies in the world, which you can't afford because they all serve the biggest companies in the world. So the issue with hiring marketing agencies, first and foremost, is until you've done founder-led sales and you've had successful sales conversations in a repeatable manner where you start to be able to predict what people are going to say and who's going to buy and who's not, it's really difficult for a marketing agency to solve that. What ends up happening is they run some advertising, they run some content, you get some leads. Those leads aren't matching an ideal customer profile, your ICP. So when you do speak to them, you're like, the leads are low quality, and everyone leaves rather unhappy. Okay. The other trap here is when we are trying to hire a junior member of a sales team to do sales for you. Okay, this is, I really don't want to do sales. I'm just going to find someone who's really outgoing. They're going to be on the phone all day and, magically know how to sell my product. Again, the same trap exists though. You likely, unless you're giving shares away and they're becoming a co-founder, you likely cannot afford the kind of salesperson who is able to come in to a brand new company who has no sales process, who has no ICP defined, who has no clue what messaging works, what resonates, and what features of functionality sell or do not sell, and get that all off the ground for you. If you think about the leverage of the person who can do that, like they're gonna want 2, 3, 400,000 pounds a year because they're gonna make you millions in profit. You probably can't afford that. So what ends up happening is people hire junior to mid-level sales team members who have worked in businesses that have defined sales processes, scripts, ICPs, and a big customer database and a marketing engine that's going a million miles an hour that lands market qualified leads in their lap. And you go do the sales and they go, oh my God, I've never done this before. How do I do this? They don't close any business. They start making a million excuses of why that's not happening. You get frustrated as the founder, you end up firing them. And again, the same thing happens. We leave with the mindset of sales doesn't work, marketing doesn't work, and that is the trap. That is why you have to lean into doing founder-led sales first and foremost as a founder, because when you know how to sell your product, you can delegate that responsibility to others. When you've set the system up of how your product is sold, you can get someone in to manage that system. And people who manage cost way less than founders. True founders who create value from nothing are worth millions. You can't afford them. Okay, so think about this trap. Don't fall foul of this trap. Okay, so what is the rhythmic revenue model? This is the thing that we are all in on at Minimal Viable Launch. When we work with companies to help them scale, the first thing that we basically do is get them doing consistent rhythmic revenue generation through direct outreach. It is the fastest way to scale your product. If you are still doubtful about direct outreach and why this is effective in your business and why you need to do this, I found a little statistic here that 60% of all SaaS revenue comes from enterprise level customers. So it's not the SaaS businesses that are stuck selling to SMEs and small customers have a tiny fraction of the SaaS revenue overall, right? And there's some really interesting statistics around annual revenue per employee for those companies who focus on enterprise and those who basically don't sell to enterprise, right? Those who sell to enterprise, much higher revenue statistics. 60% of all revenue comes from enterprise level sales. And I have never been in a sales process with an enterprise level customer where they haven't wanted to pick up the phone, get to know a face, have an account manager, have a customer success person, have someone do BD with them, get through 10 levels of approvals, presentations, customizations, and everything else that goes along with enterprise level sales. So you are going to have to do this if you want to participate in the vast majority of profit within the SaaS world, okay? And it only happens, rhythmic clients, money coming into your bank in a predictable way, only happens after you start to implement rhythmic action into your business. Most of you are not doing rhythmic sales. This is why it's called the rhythmic revenue model. It has to be a process that is done week in, week out, 52 weeks of the year in, year out. It basically, once we start getting this going, you have to keep your foot on the accelerator. And the only way you escape doing the sales is by building in a team behind you, a sales director, a sales team, etc., etc. Terrifying, I know, but the reason is because you enter the feast and famine cycle if you are not doing rhythmic action, if you're not doing rhythmic sales. What ends up happening is you look at your revenue, you go, we haven't got any customers coming in, we haven't got any leads. You wake up in a panic. You start having those days where you're like, I'm going to do a sales day today, and you start doing the rhythmic action. You consistently reach out to people. You consistently add people to your list, prospects to your list. You start to get some success. That success makes you busy. Then you start to take your foot off the gas, and we plunge down into the below break-even line. And you start going, oh God, we haven't got any revenue coming in this month. This is terrifying. Okay. And we start the cycle all over again. This is called the feast and famine cycle of sales. We have to escape this trap as quickly as possible in your business because it is absolutely killer for a business to exist in this phase. Okay. So when we start getting this working, we just have to keep going. We have to put your foot on the accelerator, and then jam a brick on that accelerator so it can never be let up again, right? It means that sales and doing sales is more important than anything else in your early stage business, because this is the lifeblood of your company. Profit and revenue is what allows a company to live and then thrive, okay? If you're not doing sales, you are not generating revenue, you're not generating profit. That I can guarantee you. And people that come to me really panicked, they're going to go out of business and the walls are collapsing in around them. Every single time when we look at their business and I look at the numbers, I say, how many people have you reached out to this month? It's like, oh, five. It's not good enough. If you have no money, you have no shame. You should be asking every single person you can possibly bend their ear in order to make a sale to them, okay? So the feast and famine cycle, if you feel that stress, it's because you don't have the rhythmic process in there. The rhythmic revenue model looks like this, okay? It is a spiral, it is a circle that we're going down again and again and again and again, and it just repeats, right? The actions are this. We spend some time prospecting. Prospecting is the act of building names onto your sales list that match your ICP. This is like setting up the environment for success. So when I was in uni studying art, my level of drawing ability exploded, because before I was like sat on my mum's kitchen table and every time we had dinner I had to pack all my paintings away and everything. And surprise, surprise, I just didn't paint very much because that was a pain in the ass. When I went to university, I had my own studio space and I could paint whenever I want. I could leave it all out. I painted every single day. That act of having an environment that was set up for success allowed me to succeed. Prospecting is the exact same thing. If you try to do sales and you don't have a ready and waiting list, you are not doing sales that day. You're doing prospecting. Or what is more likely to happen is you're going to try and do a few bits of prospecting and sales at the same time. You're going to get no momentum in either. It's going to be frustrating. The meeting comes up, you leave that all to one side, and we don't look at it again all week. Okay, so prospecting is the process of setting your environment up for success, building the list of people who match your ICP that you want to reach out to at some point in the future. And we want thousands of people on that list, ideally. Okay, and there's really creative ways that we can build it. Then you ask. This is another hour of your week, right? You could spend an hour prospecting. You could spend a couple of hours making asks, and I would really encourage you to chunk those two tasks up into separate tasks, okay? Because they're different mindsets and modes in working. And asking is just leading with value. It's not pitch slapping someone. It is asking for a connection request on LinkedIn. It is following a connection up and saying, hey, I like this piece of content you posted. I really resonated with it because X, Y, and Z. Hey, actually, we're doing a piece of research and we want to talk to companies like yours about X, Y, or Z. Do you want to participate? Hey, I saw you post about this problem you've got. I actually did a video on that. Do you want to, here it is, a link. I think it might help you. Or we created this guide on how you solve painful XYZ problem. I think you might suffer from it because companies like yours do. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. It is just something that is valuable that moves the relationship on to the next phase. Okay, most people struggle with sales because all they have in their back pocket is asking for a call, asking for the sale. And that gets really tiresome very, very quickly. And we're going to see in a second why follow-up is the next stage. But you've got to have creative ways of maintaining contact with potential prospects, because we're going to see in a second with some of the stats we've got how 80% of the market require follow-ups in order to buy, right? So follow-up is the next stage. When you've done asking the new prospects something from your list, you're going to look at your old prospects, those who ghosted you, those who didn't reply, those who told you they would rather pour bleach into their eyeballs than jump on a phone call with you. You are going to follow up with them no matter what, okay? And you follow up with, again, value. Hey, we just released a blog. I think you'd like it. Hey, I recorded this YouTube video. I think it might be of value to you. Hey, did you see this news? Whatever it is, right? And you'll see the most clever companies that you are engaged with when you're on their prospect list or their CRM, they engage with you in clever ways, which is not just, hey, do you want to buy my stuff? Hey, do you want to buy my stuff? That gets really tiring really quickly. And you rinse and repeat this. This goes on every day, every week, every month. And the more you do it, the more money you will make. And it is a simple process. Prospect, build the list. Ask for things from the list, follow up, rinse and repeat. Add more people to the list, make more asks, and it gets easier and easier and easier. When I was working in sales in recruitment, I had multiple lists built for different regions of UK cities that I was working in. And every day I could pull up a list of about 1,000 people who were core ICP targets, and I could work through them. And I had my notes of the last time we spoke, when their dog's birthday was, what they were going through in life, so I could bring that up in conversations with them. Those little nuggets are really interesting, track them somewhere. And it meant I could just make hundreds of asks every day. And that's why I would sell £500,000 to £600,000 worth of recruitment contracts every single year. It was just asking on the phone, nothing. I didn't even have lead magnets or events in my back pocket. So why must you follow up? It is astounding to me when you look at these stats. So this is stats from a company called Quilla. Quilla does sales proposals in a really beautiful data-driven way. It's a really cool piece of technology. You should check them out. But they did a survey of all of their people who use their product, and they looked at various data points. But this really stood out to me. I am always saying to you on this channel, the money is in the follow-up. The reason I say that to you, if you've ever done sales for any long period of time, you will have this weird experience where someone will ignore you 6-7 times. You send the 8th email and they're like, yeah, we really need you right now. Let's go. Okay. When I broke onto the preferred seller list of Jet2, that was 1.5 years of me being an utter pain in the ass to every single person I could think of in that business, even turning up to their office with beers and CVs in order to try and get that account. 1.5 years of follow-up, and eventually they're like, oh, Lee, okay, you are actually very persistent. Let's get you onto the account because we'd quite like to work with you, you annoying guy. But look at these stats here. 80% of deals need between 5 to 12 contact attempts before they closed a deal with them. If we zoom in a little bit, first contact is only 2% of all deals that happened were done off the first contact. And I cannot tell you the amount of founders that say to me, yeah, I reached out to them, they didn't respond. And they don't do the follow-up. And if we look at the stats, you are missing like 98% of all deals that happen have to be, you have to have more than one piece of contact with them. There are people on this call right now that we only work together because I followed up multiple times with you, like relentlessly. Okay. And when you said follow up with me in a couple of months, I noted that down in my CRM and I followed up with you in a couple of months and referenced it. Right. And look at it, like even second contact, that's like 3 to 4% there. Third contact is only 5% of deals happen in the third contact. Fourth contact, 10% of deals. But again, if you're not getting past that 5, you are missing a very large chunk of the potential deals that you can put into place in your business. Okay. If you're not following up, your competition is, and that means those 80% of deals are going to your competitors. I guarantee you they're more tenacious than you if you're only following up one time. There was actually a really interesting stat, just as an aside, that I found in this research as well. Didn't put a slide in for, but 48% of all sales consultants, people who work in sales teams, actually struggle to follow up more than once because they feel embarrassed or they feel scared of the rejection. So 48% of people who exist, this is why we have such high churn ratios in sales positions. You have to get over the fear of rejection. It is not bad if someone says no to you. You should seek the rejection, okay? The best sales people I've ever worked with, people who do over £1 million worth of sales per year, one of them had Born to Close tattooed on his arm, so he was very dedicated to sales. I have never seen someone who is more intentful at following up. He would have all of his customers' birthdays on his phone so he could send them a happy birthday message. He would know when their anniversaries were. He would know when, in recruitment, like when he'd made the first deal with them, and he'd send them a little thank you note around the support in any way that he could. And he closed millions of pounds worth of deals per year in recruitment because of it, for one skill, and it's just follow up. So I hope those stats are a little bit sobering for you. Okay, so how do we find endless prospects? Hopefully you are now sold on the fact that you're going to do some founder-led sales and you understand the rhythmic method. Prospect, ask, follow up, repeat. Prospect, ask, follow up, repeat. That is it. So how do we find these people to follow up with or to ask? Again, it comes back to the ICP. You have to have a clear ICP in your business, because if you don't have an ICP, you're basically targeting the entire world. And there's a really weird thing around the brain's creative capacity. It needs constraints in order for you to solve a problem, okay? Most people's constraints around their ICP consist of these two things. Do they have a pulse? And do they have a wallet with some money in it? Because if they do, I'm taking them home, right? You are running promiscuous businesses that anyone with a pulse or a wallet is a qualified prospect for you. And it's not good enough. We need to raise your standards way above that. We need things that make them a good fit, and we need things that make them like a terrible fit where you don't want to work with them. And I know most of you are going to be saying, but we have some qualifying criteria, and it will be something like size of company or location. And we need to go deeper than that. We need job titles, locations, industries, specific problems they're solving, tech stacks that they use. There's a million ways that you can qualify a prospect in and out. And I promise you, if you get more focused on your ICP, you'll actually have a much easier time of finding them. And I'm going to tell you a little story about a company we work with to do that. The reason you'll have an easier time is paradoxical, but constraints force creativity. So I want to do a little experiment with you guys right now. I'm going to show you a blank piece of paper. And if I was to ask you, like, draw something on this blank piece of paper, most of you, I think, would probably pick that pen up and go, I don't know what to draw. What should I draw? Maybe you might draw something immediately in front of you, or you might do some scribbles. But we're not probably expecting a Caravaggio level masterpiece coming out of that constraint there, right? But if I said instead, draw something with 3 equal length sides, draw me a shape with 3 equal length sides, I bet all of you think of a triangle. And you would be able to solve that problem because your brain can hook onto the constraints and come up with clever ways to solve that problem. The human brain fascinates me. It is like one of the most insane problem-solving machines that's ever been created in this universe, okay? And you need constraints for creativity. It is a requirement. So your ICP, the more constrained it is, the more creative your brain will get in finding diverse sources of endless leads, right? And I would show you how this worked. We'll talk about a company we worked with who was targeting the whole of Spotify. That was their ICP. If they use Spotify for the e-commerce business, we want to work with them. And when we started to help them scale their business, we were looking at their sales numbers. I was like, you're not reaching out to very many people every month. This is probably why we're not getting a ton of sales. And they're like, we can't find anyone. I was like, there are hundreds of thousands of e-commerce stores on Shopify. Like, surely we must be able to find people. And we went on this bit of a journey with them. And this is where the ICP being constrained really became clear for me, is we put a couple of parameters around who we were looking for. So at first it was everyone in Spotify. Then we said, well, look, actually Spotify has a ton of kind of entrepreneurs, very early stage e-commerce businesses. They don't have any money. They can't afford the rates that you want to pay. So let's qualify them out. Let's set it to they have to be earning over £1 million a year on the platform. Otherwise, we don't want to work with them. That removed an absolute ton of people. And the founders were really scared about doing that because it felt like cutting off opportunity. But once we'd done that, we realized there was a size. And when we had the size, we was like, oh, there's actually a team structure. When you cross that kind of £1 million threshold, it's not founder, owner operated so much anymore. There's usually a marketing team. And in the marketing team, there's a brand manager. Okay. And this company was offering carbon offsets for shops on the Spotify platform. And we said, well, what if people want to tell brand stories about the initiatives that they support through their purchases? So let's target those brand managers because they can tell good stories about this. But it was still too broad because we could do a LinkedIn search on that and we would get 19,000 people across the world with that title in an e-commerce store and Shopify on their platform. And it's a little bit too difficult to prospect like that. And so we started to look at vertical niching. And we said, well, not all businesses really care about the environment. Like a fast fashion business on Spotify that sells dresses for like £5 that people wear once and throw away, they're not going to double the price of that by offering a carbon offset. That's not their business model. And we looked at various niches and we decided to settle on the outdoor sports and activity niche, over 1 million, who had a brand manager who wanted to tell good brand stories about the carbon, the environmental initiatives that they were going to do through this platform. And the weirdest thing happened when we had that level of constraint. We took like 95% of that Shopify market out of our kind of ICP when we did that. But suddenly we found conferences and conventions we could go to that specifically targeted outdoor adventure and sports brands, many of which were on Shopify. We found trade associations and industry groups that specifically targeted environmentally conscious Shopify brands who had many people in that niche, right? We had a really targeted LinkedIn sales nav search. It wasn't 19,000 people. It was like 800 people. And as soon as we put that in place, they started to get traction with this idea because they could just become more and more creative with how they would find these people. They knew the right podcasts to show up on. They knew the right messages to send. And it's like a virtuous cycle in the business that we go down. Okay. So niche your ICP much further than you are comfortable with, because I guarantee you, especially at the start of your founder-led sales journey, you aren't great at sales and you aren't great at outreach at this point. It is a skill that you will learn, but the nicher you are, the easier it is because your targeting is much more refined. It is easier to get creative on where to find them, and your messages will be more resonant because all of your lead magnets, invitations, events, etc., are all tailored towards a very specific ICP with very specific problems. So hopefully you're thinking, I need to define my ICP a little bit more. And now, what is this essential toolkit? I said I was going to show you the sales tools which the pros use, the things that you need to put in place. Otherwise, you cannot do sales. Okay? I've lied. There is no essential tools. The thing that drives me nuts about this is that when we have people who want to do sales, the next excuse that they put in place is, what CRM should I use? What sales automation tool should I use? Should I buy Sales Nav or not? And the thing that I've seen, my greatest sales tools that I've ever had was a telephone and a notebook that I put tally charts in that just forced me to pick up the phone and do a cold call. And that made me more money than anything else that we had. Sales, these automations and tools are great. Don't get me wrong. They add efficiency into what you do. But if we're right at the start where you're just not even doing consistent sales, it is a complete distraction to be worried about what your toolkit is. What we need is just the action. Then the action will highlight the gaps in your ability to execute on it. And we can plug those with sales tools and automations. But this is all you need. You need a list to reach out to. You need a way to contact them, which is via phone, email, social media message, smoke signals, or turning up. If you're like one of my old sales managers, he would force us to turn up to these businesses' offices and get the person we wanted down to reception and pitch them on the spot. It was awful. I don't recommend doing that in any way, shape or form. We never closed a sale from doing that. It was awful, awful, awful. But that's all you need to do, a way to contact them. You need a valuable message to send. So not just a pitch slap, something that they are genuinely interested in engaging with so that we can move them down the funnel of these conversations that you are having, okay? And we need a way for you to track your progress. We are doing an experiment in the Minimal Viable Launch Founders Forum community at the minute. There is 5 of us who are tracking on a spreadsheet how many people we've added to our list, how many asks we've made to that list, how many people we've booked appointments with, how many attended, and then how many sales we've made. And we've had some comments. It's been going like 3 days now. We've had some comments already. Someone said today, there is magic in this spreadsheet. I've made a sale, I've closed a partner, and I'm suddenly adding more people to my list than I know what to do with. Just because we're now being intentional with tracking the data and every single day doing something to either build the list or sell to the list, ask the list, okay? And just remember, do not let tech get in the way of work. I don't want to hear any conversations or have any conversations with you, which is along the lines of, is HubSpot worth it? What CRM should I use? Like, unless you're doing hundreds of outreaches a day, it literally doesn't matter which one of those tools you have. And I would say you just start with a spreadsheet. We just want the minimal tech that costs you the least amount of money that you just use, that is easy and set up for you. If you use HubSpot, you're going to get dragged into a world of setting up automations and sales funnels, and you're going to spend more time prepping for it than actually doing it. And like, building the automation is not doing the work. Setting up the accounts is not doing the work. Thinking about what software to use is not doing the work. The only thing that is doing the work is sending the ask to the person on the list and trying to get a call, a demo, a meeting, whatever it is that moves that relationship forward. That is all. And if you just do that and you have multiple follow-ups and you do it in that rhythmic process, prospect, ask, follow up, and repeat. If you just do that, I guarantee you, your life will be very, very different because you'll have more opportunity than you know what to do with. There is trillions of dollars flowing around the world economy, more money than you could ever hope to herd into your bank account, okay? There is a river of money flowing past you. And if you're not there prospecting and making asks, it is flowing straight past you. And I just want you to stick your oar in the water and start rowing, right? Start making those asks. Hopefully you agree that we have given you enough information that is going to take you from sales novice and turn you into a sales machine. Founder-led sales. It is you, the founder, who needs to be in charge of working out how to sell your product before you abdicate that responsibility. We're going to get it working first, and then you're going to delegate it. You're going to do rhythmic revenue generation with the rhythmic revenue model. It means sales every single day. Add some names to the list, make some asks, follow up with those asks, rinse and repeat. We're going to get creative in finding those endless prospects because you're going to get really tight on who your ideal customer profile is. And that is going to allow your brain to be creative, to find sources of leads that aren't just LinkedIn, by the way. There's a whole wide world of data out there. We've had someone recently who's doing sales into deep tech companies, founders of deep tech companies, and we found lists, hundreds of companies that universities in his state put out there of deep tech companies that have been spin-outs from the university. That is a really hard lead source to discover if your ICP is not tight enough. But because it was, we started to search deep tech. We found one website. We went, is there more of these? He's got an endless list of companies and it gets updated all of the time. You are not going to let tech get in the way of doing sales. The essential sales kit is very simple. It is a list. It is a way to contact them. It is a message to send. And it is a way to track your progress to hold yourself accountable. So we'll see you next week.